When Olandria stepped onto that carpet, time stopped. Every flashbulb, every whisper, every lens in the room locked on her. The crowd didn't just look, it stared, because this wasn't just another influencer moment. This was a transformation made visible.
Hi! How are you tonight?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, you look gorgeous.
I love your gown.
Come on, what are you wearing?
Cavalli.
Love Cavalli. When you were talking to your stylist, you said what?
I love something bold.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
And why for this?
It's kind of different from what I'm usually doing. Usually I don't really pull out the red lip. I thought the red lip was very grown, very mature, very bold. And I love a black moment.
You're gorgeous, and that body. You can't hide this body. You need to show it off.
No, for sure. Gotta flaunt it while you got it.
You do, girl. You sure do. Looking forward to seeing tonight.
Carrie. Yeah. Love her.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, have fun. And you look gorgeous.
Thank you, beautiful.
Vintage Roberto Cavalli, liquid black silk clinging like it had been sculpted for her alone. The lace panels caught the light, and the whole room gasped. Even Lisa Rinna, who's made a career out of talking nonstop, literally lost her words. All she could manage was beautiful, gorgeous, stunning, over and over, like her brain had short-circuited. And Olandria, she smiled, calm, collected, like a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. That red lip against the all-black fit wasn't a random style choice. It was a message. Bold, fearless, final. Every step said, I'm here, and you're going to remember this. People online called it the Bomba Barbie era. But what they didn't realize was that this wasn't just a fashion rebirth. It was a full circle moment years in the making. Because before she was shutting down red carpets, before Lisa Rinna forgot how to speak, before Bama Barbie became a movement, Olandria was that girl from Love Island USA Season 7. The one caught in one of the messiest, most dramatic relationship triangles the show had ever seen. The dress, the confidence, the glow, all of it came from surviving that storm. And to understand why this night meant so much, we need to go back to where it all began. Back to the villa. Back to the chaos. Back to the first spark that started it all. When Love Island USA Season 7 premiered, nobody saw it coming. Among all the flashy intros and flirty confessionals, two people stood out, even when they weren't standing together. Nick, Olandria. They didn't start the season as a couple. In fact, they barely spoke in those early episodes. But every time they were paired up for a game or a challenge, the chemistry was undeniable. The eye contact, the laughter, the way the energy shifted when they were near each other. It wasn't just attraction, it was electricity. Fans caught it instantly.
One thing about me, I always said I always allow my success to be my official clap back, and that keeps them up every time.
Before the Islanders even realized what was happening, the internet had already decided. The hashtag number nicolandria started trending by episode 3. Viewers were clipping moments, zooming in on glances, writing essays on Reddit about that look he gave her during the balloon challenge. It was fan obsession on overdrive, and they hadn't even shared a kiss yet. But inside the villa, things were complicated. Olandria was coupled up with Taylor, the charming southern guy everyone said was her perfect match on paper. And Nick? He was tied up with Sierra, a connection that looked solid, at least to the cameras. So whatever was happening between them had to stay beneath the surface. Unspoken, untouched, just energy, hanging in the air. Still, there were clues. During one of the early challenges, the infamous blindfold kiss game, Nick kissed Olandria, and when the blindfold came off, he said nothing. Didn't tell her, didn't hint, didn't even smirk, just walked away like it hadn't happened. But fans noticed. They slowed the footage down. They rewatched the scene frame by frame. And every time Olandria appeared on screen after that, Nick's eyes gave him away. He was watching her, always. Weeks later, when that secret finally came out, it rewrote everything fans thought they knew about the season. Because this wasn't a random connection that appeared out of nowhere. This had been building quietly from the very beginning, a slow burn hidden behind other storylines and alliances. It was there in every group challenge, every villa night, every look they pretended not to hold too long. But timing is cruel. Because just as that spark was forming, Olandria's relationship with Taylor began to unravel.
The constant attempt to try and humble and or villainize Olandria is it's a hard watch. it's a hard watch, but it's not completely, it's expected because she's black, she's pretty, she's young, she's popping, she's got it going on. So people can't fathom the idea that somebody who looks like her is really on like that. You know what I mean? It has to come with something. It has to come with some baggage. She can't just have all of that and live a peaceful life. There's been so much going on. Like, I'm trying to stay out of it because, like, it gets to, Love Island ended in the summertime. Halloween is next weekend. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's been kind of hard for me. But firstly, I want to start off with Sierra, of course, showing up to the Agua de Kafir party that was literally hosted by Nick and Olandria. The amount of people that I've been seeing saying stuff like, oh, well, Nick and Olandria did Sierra so dirty and they owe her a conversation or an apology. Do y'all keep that same energy for Iris and TJ? Like, the selective performative outrage sends me to the moon, because Sierra and Nick only knew each other but for so much time. Like, they weren't even in a relationship, not even a situationship. They closed things off in the villa and she left like the next day. So what the fuck are y'all talking about? Mind you, she was kicked off of the show for saying a racial slur. Would you want to get back with somebody, or would you even want to entertain or be around them for doing something like that? He doesn't owe her anything. Olandria doesn't owe her anything. Are we okay? It was weird as fuck for her to show up to that party uninvited as a +1 and try to be shady, and y'all are saying, oh, well, she's in her 20s, she makes mistakes. Like I said, the selective, like, yo, I pick Clark. Why do y'all keep using that audio? Mind you, why does Taylor and Clark keep saying shit like that? Like, you do know the reason why most people fuck with y'all is because they're anti-Olandria, right? Like, it's nothing. We love to see a happy, thriving relationship, but why do y'all always have to do that at Olandria's expense? Like, choose another phrase. That phrase, you know exactly what you're doing when you're using that phrase. Don't act like you don't. And at first I thought, like, okay, maybe it was just like an innocent thing because, you know, that's their, you know, that's what made them kind of viral and Clark it. But y'all are doing it intentionally. And you know that you do. You're trying to humble Olandria. That's what they're trying to do. It has to be that. Because you know what that scene meant. You know what that scene did to her and how people bullied her because of what Taylor did. Like, Ace literally went onto a podcast saying that he helped Taylor love bomb her, even though he knew that she wasn't really fucking with her. And then he used her up until that point, until somebody else came in, which was Clark. And then he picked Clark. Congratulations, you picked Clark. Arby's picked you. Like, it's fine. Like, you know, stay there. Stop using that shit. You know exactly what you're doing when you're using it. Like, that's weird.
And what happened next would become one of the most talked about twists in Love Island history. From the outside, Taylor and Olandria looked picture perfect. Two Southern charmers, matching smiles, and easy chemistry. At least, that's what the first few episodes wanted you to believe. They were cute, safe, predictable. The kind of couple you root for when you don't know better. But if you watched closely, something was missing. Taylor never seemed all in. He'd hold her hand, but his eyes would wander. He'd smile, but there was hesitation behind it. Meanwhile, Olandria was giving her full heart, initiating conversations, trying to build intimacy, putting effort into every moment. And when she didn't get that same energy back, you could see it in her face. She was trying to convince herself this was love, when deep down, she knew it wasn't. Then came Casa Amor, the ultimate loyalty test. New villa, new temptations, no rules. For Taylor, it wasn't a test, it was a way out. The moment Clark walked in, confident, flirty, and forward, everything shifted. Taylor lit up in a way he never did with Olandria. Within hours, he was laughing louder, leaning closer, touching more. And that first kiss, it didn't happen in a challenge. It happened because he wanted it to. When the recoupling came, nobody in the villa saw his choice coming. Everyone expected Taylor to stay loyal. Even Olandria. She stood there waiting, hands clasped, heart pounding. And then he said Clark's name. The gasp that followed wasn't just from the Islanders, it was from the entire audience watching at home. Even Amaya stood up in disbelief. Because this wasn't just a breakup, it was public humiliation. And Taylor didn't make it easier. He called Clark his real connection, told Olandria maybe people just didn't like her, words that hit harder than any challenge ever could. You could see her fighting tears, forcing a smile, trying to hold her composure while the cameras kept rolling. It was brutal. Twitter exploded. # Team Olandria started trending within minutes. Fans turned on Taylor overnight. Every popularity vote after that put him and Clark at the bottom. Viewers weren't buying the following my heart narrative. They saw it for what it was, disrespect disguised as honesty. But what nobody knew then was that this heartbreak, this public, messy, televised rejection, would become the catalyst for everything that followed. Because while Taylor was busy chasing Clark, Olandria was about to rise from the ashes of that moment and step into a story that would make Love Island history. While Olandria was piecing herself back together after Taylor's betrayal, something was unraveling on the other side of the villa. Nick, the quiet, steady one, was in his own emotional storm. He and Sierra had been the definition of villa goals. They'd built trust, connection, and what looked like a solid path to the finale. They were even talking exclusivity. But Casa Amor has a way of testing what people say versus what they feel. When the villas split, Nick tried to stay loyal. He flirted a little, sure, but there was hesitation. Something kept him from going all in with any of the new girls. Fans didn't see it yet, but that hesitation had a name, Olandria. Meanwhile, Sierra was in Casa Amor doing the exact opposite. She shut everything down, told the new guys she wasn't kissing anyone, wasn't cuddling, wasn't open, because her heart was already taken. On screen, she looked like the devoted girlfriend, but when the recoupling came, fate had other plans. Both Nick and Olandria, in separate villas, unaware of what the other was facing, ended up dumped on the same night. No warnings, no build-up, just suitcases and goodbyes. Their journeys, it seemed, were over. But Love Island isn't just a show about love. It's about timing. And that night, timing was everything. Nick was walking toward the exit, suitcase rolling behind him, lights fading. Then a black SUV pulled up beside him. The door opened, and sitting inside, looking just as shocked, just as heartbroken, was Olandria. For a split second, neither of them spoke. Then they laughed. That nervous, "Is this really happening?" kind of laugh that only happens when the universe plays matchmaker. The producers had orchestrated a twist so wild, it felt scripted. The two people fans had been begging to see together since week 1 were now face to face, and given a choice: go home separately, or return to the villa as a new couple. They didn't even hesitate. They looked at each other, smiled, and said yes. That moment, the candlelit date, the nervous laughter, the way Nick admitted he'd been drawn to her from day one, it broke the internet. Clips flooded TikTok. Twitter melted down. Nicolandria Nation had been shouting for this moment all season, and now it was real. Away from the noise, away from the cameras for once, they got to be themselves. Landria told him she always felt something, but didn't think it was mutual. Nick confessed he'd noticed her the first day she walked in, and sitting there, surrounded by candles and the sound of waves, they finally stopped running from what had been obvious all along. When they returned to the villa together, the reaction was chaos. Everyone woke up to find them cuddled up, smiling like they'd just won the season. It was like watching a plot twist unfold in real time, the kind you can't write because it feels too perfect. From that moment on, Love Island had its new power couple, and the villa would never be the same again. When Nick and Olandria walked back into that villa together, everything changed. Whispers stopped, heads turned. It wasn't just that they'd returned, it was how they looked at each other. Calm, certain, like two people who had already made their choice. And even though they had only a week left before the finale, that week was enough to shift everything. They weren't playing for strategy anymore, they weren't chasing screen time, they were just being. The other couples had been together for weeks, maybe months. Nick and Olandria had days, but those days were real. They laughed, flirted, cooked breakfast together, and somehow made it feel like a long love story condensed into a single week. Then came the kiss. Not a challenge kiss, not a dare, not fan service. A real one. Soft, deliberate, and charged with everything that had been building since day one. Fans watching at home lost their minds. Twitter went into meltdown mode. People called it the payoff of the season. By the time the finale rolled around, everyone knew they weren't going to win, and somehow that made them even easier to root for. They didn't need the prize money or the votes. They'd already won what they came for. Their speeches that night said it all. Olandria talked about almost giving up, about how she felt invisible after Taylor, how she questioned if love was meant for her, and how staying just one more day changed everything. Nick's voice cracked as he read his letter. He said he'd noticed her from day one, said everything happened exactly when it was supposed to, said the timing, no matter how messy, brought them right where they were meant to be. When they finished, half the villa was crying. Even the host looked emotional. It was one of those rare Love Island moments that felt completely unscripted, genuine and human. They placed second, but second never looked so much like first. And then came the real world. The flashing lights, the interviews, the endless headlines asking, "Are they official yet?" Fans wanted an instant label, an instant fairy tale ending. But Nick and Olandria refused to rush. They said they were taking their time, learning how to be a couple without cameras, without confessionals, without pressure. It frustrated people online, but it was the smartest move they could have made. Because while the internet was obsessing over their relationship status, they were building something better, a real connection off-screen. They started traveling together. He took her to Disneyland because she once mentioned she'd never been. He brought her to Greece for a campaign shoot. She talked on podcasts about how he shows up for her in ways no one else ever has. Little things that don't go viral, but matter most. Then came the phrase that would define her next chapter, soft girl era. She told Andy Cohen that being with Nick made her feel safe enough to let go, to stop controlling everything, to be feminine, gentle, vulnerable, without fear. And you could see it in her smile, in her posture, in the way she spoke about life now versus before. It wasn't just that she found love, it was that she found peace. But the story doesn't end there, because the glow-up came with a price. As their fame rose, so did the drama waiting outside the villa doors. And what happened next would test everything they'd built together. For a minute, everything looked perfect. Nick and Olandria were thriving, traveling together, posting subtle soft launch photos, doing interviews where they couldn't stop smiling at each other. The fandom was eating it up. But this is Love Island. Peace never lasts long. The first wave hit when Sierra reappeared. Yeah, that's Sierra, the one Nick had been coupled up with before everything exploded. She showed up at an influencer party Olandria and Nick were co-hosting. Uninvited, no warning, no message, just walked in like she belonged there. People online couldn't believe it. Clips started circulating within minutes. Sierra standing across the room, sipping a drink, pretending it was casual, while the cameras caught Nick and Olandria's faces when they realized who'd just arrived. You could see the tension tighten the air. The fandom went into detective mode. Why was she there? Was she trying to make a scene? Was she chasing clout? Because context matters. Sierra wasn't just an ex-Villa flame. She was the girl who left the show under messy circumstances, accused of using offensive language online, sparking a PR storm that tanked her image. Nick had distanced himself completely after that, so for her to walk into his event months later, it didn't feel like coincidence. Then came the whispers. People claiming Nick and Olandria owed Sierra a conversation, an apology, closure. But let's be real, closure for what? They weren't together, they barely lasted a few weeks, and after everything that happened, it made zero sense. The internet loves drama more than logic, and this was proof. Olandria didn't engage. She smiled, she mingled, she stayed classy, and that restraint only made her shine brighter. Because while Sierra was trying to stir up conversation, Olandria was already 2 levels above it. She didn't need to clap back. Her success did it for her. But then, as if that wasn't enough, Taylor and Clark decided it was their turn to poke the bear. They posted a TikTok using the now infamous audio, "I pick Clark." The exact line Taylor said on the night he dumped Olandria. It was petty, transparent, and timed just days after Olandria's InStyle red carpet debut. Coincidence? Not a chance. They claimed it was just an inside joke, a callback to their Love Island moment. But everyone knew what it really was. A not-so-subtle jab at Olandria, the same woman Taylor humiliated publicly. The same woman who was now walking red carpets while he was posting TikToks for attention. Fans flooded the comments. Some called it shade, others called it obsession. Either way, it backfired. Because instead of tearing Olandria down, it made her look even better. She didn't respond. She didn't post a cryptic tweet or go on a rant. She just kept working. Brand campaigns, fashion events, magazine spreads. While her exes were reliving old storylines, she was writing new ones. That's the thing about glow-ups. They expose people who never expected you to win. And deep down, that's what all the noise was really about. They weren't mocking her. They were reminding everyone of the moment she was supposed to break and didn't. Because Olandria's story stopped being about Love Island a long time ago. Now, it was about evolution. And the way she handled the hate was proof she'd mastered it. The internet expected her to explode, to post a rant, to go live and set the record straight. But Olandria didn't give them that satisfaction. She did something much smarter. She let her silence speak louder than any statement ever could. While the fandom argued about Sierra and dissected Taylor's latest TikTok, Olandria was too busy working, too busy becoming the woman they thought she couldn't be. Her interviews started sounding different, more confident, more grounded. When Andy Cohen asked about the hate, she didn't roll her eyes or throw shade. She smiled and said, "My success is my clapback." And that single sentence broke the cycle. No anger, no pettiness, just grace. Because that's the real revenge. Living well while everyone else keeps talking. In that moment, you could see how much she'd changed since the villa. Back then, she was guarded, calculated, always trying to manage how she came across, aware that one emotional moment could be twisted into a headline. Now she moves with peace. She's softer, freer, but sharper too. And the way she treats people, that's part of the magic. You can watch any red carpet interview, any fan interaction. She's consistent. Someone compliments her and she instantly finds something kind to say back. Not forced, not fake, just real human warmth. It's such a small thing, but it's rare in that world. She doesn't just take up space, she fills it with kindness. It's why brands love her. It's why fans defend her. It's why no matter how much drama others try to stir, she always ends up ahead. Because here's the truth. You can't drag someone who refuses to play in the mud. You can't outshine someone who glows from the inside out. And you can't beat someone who's not competing with you. That's Olandria now. Unbothered, unapologetic, untouchable. She's in rooms she used to dream about. She's walking carpets that once felt impossible. And she's doing it with the same energy that carried her from heartbreak to headlines. Quiet power. Because in a world obsessed with clapbacks, she realized the only response worth giving is success. From the moment she walked into that villa, Olandria had no idea her life was about to split in two. The girl she was before, and the woman she'd become after. She entered Love Island hoping to find connection. What she found instead was chaos, heartbreak, and the kind of public pain most people never recover from. But she didn't fold, she grew. Every setback became another layer of armor. Every headline that mocked her turned into motivation. And when the world doubted her, she stayed focused on the only thing she could control, the work. That's why her appearance at the InStyle Image Maker Awards wasn't just another red carpet moment. It was the victory lap, the visual proof that she made it through every storm and came out shining brighter. Think about it. A woman once mocked for being too emotional, now standing under camera flashes, unbothered, flawless, radiant. The same fans who cried watching her heartbreak were now cheering as she glided past the photographers. Even Lisa Rinna, the queen of reality commentary, stood speechless. And maybe that silence said it all. Because Olandria didn't need to explain herself anymore. She became the explanation. Nick stood just off camera that night, watching. Not as a co-star, not as a prop in her story, but as the man who saw her before the rest of the world did. The man who believed in her when all she had was belief. That's what made their story different. It was never about fame or strategy. It was about timing, healing, and growth. Two people meeting each other right when they were ready to. And now, they don't need the villa. They don't need the show. They don't even need validation. They've already proven the point. Love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Olandria once said, "If I ever get my happy ending, I want it to feel peaceful." And somehow, she found exactly that. No screaming matches, no public breakdowns, just peace and purpose. That's the legacy of Nicolandria. Not drama, not gossip, but endurance. From heartbreak to headlines. From elevator jobs to designer gowns. From being rejected on national television to being called one of fashion's newest icons. That's the kind of story you don't script. It writes itself. So the next time someone doubts your comeback, remember this moment. Remember how a woman everyone counted out turned every no into a spotlight. Because in the end, that's Olandria's real win. She didn't just survive Love Island, she transcended it. And as those camera flashes fade, one truth remains. They laughed when she lost the villa. Now they watch her own the room. If you've been here since the villa days, since Team Olandria fought for their girl, this one's for you. Because you saw the vision before anyone else did. Drop a nail polish in the comments if you're still riding for Nicolandria, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Because this story, it's nowhere near over. The red carpet was just the beginning.